All right, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Cohen here with you on Sports Talk Nation. And yes, week 1 of the 2018 NFL season is now upon us. And with that, of course, it's the pick season, meaning that we can sit here and all pretend that we're a bunch of experts and that we know everything that's going to happen, even though we don't know anything that will happen here over the course of 17 weeks. But we are going to do this on a weekly basis, folks, picking some of the big games over the course of each week throughout the course of the season. And what I like to do is I kind of like to focus on a handful of games, like 6 or 7 games that really kind of stand out, and then I'll show you the rest of my picks for the other games that are happening in whatever week we're in this case, week 1. So let's get right at it. All right, so we start things off with the Thursday night matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons, this being a rematch of the divisional playoff game between these two teams just last year. And, of course, the big headline coming in, one, you have the Philadelphia Eagles coming in as defending Super Bowl champions, taking on the Atlanta Falcons, a team that just 2 years removed now from their implosion in the Super Bowl themselves. Perhaps the more intriguing storyline is surrounding Philadelphia, and a lot of uncertainty going on in Philadelphia right now. Carson Wentz still progressing as he's trying to make his rehab and return back from knee surgery from last year. He's not ready yet, hasn't been cleared, so Nick Foles is going to get the start here on opening day for the Eagles. And there are a lot of people wondering whether Foles is going to look like the Foles we saw in the postseason last year, or is he going to look like the Nick Foles that we saw in his days with the St. Louis Rams, where he wasn't certainly not nearly as hot or as good as he was in that postseason, or in his first year when he was a starter when he threw 27 touchdowns to 2 picks. So that's the question a lot of people are asking about Foles going into this thing. I think he'll be fine tonight. I think you'll see a Philadelphia team that's going to come out there on a little bit of a mission. I know they didn't have a great preseason. I know they didn't have great results in the preseason, but again, it's preseason. I think we'll see a Philadelphia team that's going to be ready to rock and roll here tonight. Now, they're going to go up against a Falcon team that's going to have some revenge on their mind, obviously, having lost that playoff game last year. And the Falcons didn't really play a lot of their starters in the preseason, so they're going to come into this game very fresh. They're going to be ready to rock and roll in this one. We didn't see much of Julio Jones or Dante Freeman much at all in the preseason. Matt Ryan didn't play a whole heck of a lot in the preseason, so we're going to see a fresh Falcon team in this ball game. And the one challenge that the Falcons had last year against the Eagles was they couldn't get Philadelphia off the field. If the Falcons are going to have any success in this game, if they're going to have a chance to win this game, they have to find a way to limit the time possession for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they have to find ways to capitalize on their own opportunities. I mean, there was a big play in that game last year where the Falcons had an opportunity for a touchdown and couldn't do anything with it. I think there was a drop pass or something like that. It was just a complete meltdown for the Falcons near the end of that football game. So I expect a very good, competitive football game. That's it. Right now, the line is only 1 point in favor of Philadelphia. I could see it being that close, but I will say Philadelphia wins by a touchdown. I will say the Eagles take care of business against the Falcons to start the season 27-20 as the world champions get off on the right foot. Now, moving right along, let's go over to Sunday's action, and one of the more intriguing 1 o'clock games is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars going into the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Giants. And you have the Jaguars coming in here, a lot of swagger from what they did last year, went all the way to the AFC Championship game. They're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. We all know how good their defense is, and we all know that they have a really great running game, of course, with Leonard Fournette. Of course, the big problem with the Jaguars is their quarterback, Blake Bortles. I still don't like this guy under center for Jacksonville. Not many people do. Perhaps the more interesting headline in this game is what cornerback Jalen Ramsey had to say about a number of quarterbacks in the NFL. He threw a lot of guys under the bus, including Eli Manning, who he said that the offense for the Giants, all things revolve around Odell Beckham Jr., and Eli doesn't do much of anything. And Eli responded when he was asked by reporters at the time during the preseason. He said, well, who's Jalen Ramsey? So they're going to get a chance to get a little more acquainted. They certainly know one another, obviously, but they'll get a little more acquainted on Sunday. The one thing that about the Giants coming into this game is they have revamped their offensive line. Adding Nate Soldier was a very good addition for them, as it gives Eli a little more protection on his blind side. Getting Will Hernandez out of the draft, very nice, solid pickup there at guard. And then, of course, the big addition of Saquon Barkley at running back. And we didn't see much of Barkley during the preseason. He was bothered by a hamstring issue, but I think we're going to see him get let loose here today or Sunday against the Jaguars. Now, it is one of the better rush defenses in the NFL, so this is going to be a challenge for him in his first game against Jacksonville to start his career. But I will say this. I just got a funny feeling, folks, just a funny feeling, that the Giants are going to play very well in this game. I think that this is a Giant team that, yes, has a very daunting schedule. Yes, is probably going to have some struggles here in the first part of the year because of that schedule, but I could see them sneaking away with this one. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me looking at the improvement that the Giants made in the offseason and maybe running with that a little bit. Maybe it's the combination of the idea of just thinking that Blake Bortles is going to lead the Jaguars to the playoffs again. I don't know. It's going to have to be the defense again for the second straight year if Jacksonville is going to do that. So, to me, I just have a feeling that this is going to be a close, tight football game. Yes, both Eli Manning and Blake Bortles are going to make their fair share of mistakes in this game. I could just see Bortles making the biggest mistake late. I could see that happening. I don't know why, but I think it'll be a close football game, and I'm going to take the Giants to win by a field goal, maybe a mini upset, if you will, 27-24 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, game number 3, let's move right over to Cleveland, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Now, the biggest headline in this one has everything to do with Le'Veon Bell for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bell has been holding out all summer, and now he will be holding out into the regular season. He will not be suited up for this game as he will continue his holdout. And now there's now it's becoming a bigger saga than anybody ever wanted over there in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are taking the right approach. They're just moving on. They're going to keep plugging along. Whatever they decide to do with Bell, they're going to have to make a decision at some point whether they want to trade him at some point here, because this situation has become toxic. And it's unfortunate because Bell is one of the better rushers in the league, and without him, it certainly is going to hinder what Pittsburgh would like to do. They would love to have Le'Veon Bell in this football game, but it's just not going to happen at all. But still, look, it's Ben Roethlisberger. It is Antonio Brown. It is still an offense that has some firepower, and probably the best thing of all this for Pittsburgh is they get the Browns here in Week 1. I know a lot of people like the Browns. A lot of people think the Browns are going to be improved this year. You know, obviously bringing in Jarvis Landry certainly is going to help them in the passing attack, but let's be honest, it's still the Cleveland Browns. Tyrod Taylor is certainly an improvement at the starting improvement under center. And I think this will be close early, but Pittsburgh is going to run away with this one late. I'll say the Steelers take care of the Browns 30-16. Let's take a look at the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers. And yes, this is now the official debut of Kirk Cousins under center for the Minnesota Vikings. And look, there's going to be a lot of pressure on this guy, Kirk Cousins. He's getting all this guaranteed money over the next 3 years, and he has to deliver for a team that was 13-3 and got all the way to the NFC Championship game. So the Vikings come in here with very high expectations for this season. I do worry as far as the Vikings are concerned because I felt, look, I'm not a big Case Keenum guy, but he just, for whatever reason, it just worked really nicely with Keenum over there with the Vikings. I understand why the Vikings wanted to move on. Mike Zimmer wanted to move on, find another quarterback, and certainly you take a look at Kirk Cousins, a guy who has thrown for over 4,000 yards each of the last few years, a guy who will complete about 65 to 66% of his passes on average. Certainly a bigger physical prototype than, let's say, Keenum, but still, you know what? Sometimes you don't want to mess too much with these kind of things. It reminds me a little bit of what happened with Baltimore back in 2000. They won with Trent Dilfer. They didn't like it because, again, Trent Dilfer is Trent Dilfer. Went instead to Elvis Gerbach, and it just kind of fell apart. You hope if you're a Viking fan, it doesn't go that far. They're taking on a 49er team that is going to come into the season with a lot of expectations. Jimmy Garoppolo now going into his first full season as the starter of this team. Man, he lit it up last year down the stretch. I think the 49ers were 5-0 with him under center at the end of the season. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, I think, this year for Jimmy G. I don't think things are going to be I don't think teams are overlooking the 49ers. I think everyone saw what the 49ers did at the end of the year last year, and they're going to take them very seriously. And I think this will be a tough spot for him to go up against a Viking defense that was one of the best pass rushes in the National Football League. It will be it'll be a fun game. It'll be a fascinating game. I could see both teams putting on some points here, but I will take the Vikings. I will take Kirk Cousins and the Vikings to win this game 27-23 as the Vikings start off 1-0 and the 49ers fall to 0-1. Moving right along, now let's go over to New England, and that is the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots. Now, the Patriots have won their last 7 games against the Texans head-to-head, but last year's game between these two was an absolute shootout. Patriots won 36-33 in Week 3, and the Texans had a chance to win that game late. In fact, they were winning that game until a last-second touchdown pass by Tom Brady to Brandon Cooks gave New England the lead. So Houston had a chance to come away with a win that time. And in that game, of course, the headline was not only Brady with what he is always able to do, 5 touchdown passes, 378, but Deshaun Watson really put on a show for the Texans. And that's really the game where people started to say, hey, maybe Deshaun Watson could be like an MVP candidate in his rookie year. Threw for 300 yards, 2 scores, did get picked twice, but that was the beginning of that great run that he was on, where he just kept putting up big numbers at the big numbers at the big numbers on a weekly basis, and before the injury happened. So Watson, in a lot of ways, folks, is still, in many respects, still a rookie. I mean, he only played, 7 games last year. We'll see how the Patriots adjust to him. We all know that Bill Belichick does a great job adjusting to young quarterbacks, especially after seeing them the first time. I could see this being another good competitive game. I could see both of these teams putting up some points. The question for the Texans is always going to be health. They now have Watson healthy. They have J.J. Watt healthy. They have all the pieces they need in place, you would think, to make a run in the AFC South. But this will be a tough start for them to go into Foxborough against the Patriots. I know New England will not have Julian Edelman for this game, but hey, look, they didn't have him for all of last year either. Didn't seem to stop them as they went away to the Super Bowl. They won't have Edelman for the first 4 weeks because of a suspension. New England will find a way to win this game. No doubt about it. They are home. It's the first game of the year, and this is not a game that they typically lose very often. So I will take the Patriots to win. A competitive one again. This time it will be 33-26. Patriots take care of the Houston Texans. Now, you got 2 more games to go here, folks, and let's just jump right over to the Monday night games. Start things off, Jets and the Lions. And, of course, now Sam Darnold is going to be making his debut as the starting quarterback of the New York Jets. There's been a lot of talk this summer about Darnold and how well he has progressed in the Jet offense, how well he's picked up the Jet offense, how Josh McCown has been able to help him throughout this process here in preseason. And there are a lot of people in Jetland very excited and a lot of nervous anticipation for him and what could be possible for that franchise. Now, with all that being said, the Jets are not a great team. Still don't have their offensive line is still a mess. The running game is still a problem. They have no edge pass rusher. They passed up on the Khalil Mack opportunity because the Raiders are asking for way too much in 2 first-round picks, and Mike McCagnon was not going to bite on that. So, still no pass rush for the Jets. I worry about this team. I still think it's a team that's a ways away from being decent or being good. I know there's some fans that say the Jets could be a 9-win team. I don't see it. I think they're a 6-win team at best this year. Going into Detroit, it'll be Matt Patricia's first game as Lions head coach, which could play into the Jets' favor. I mean, hey, look, this will be an adjustment for Patricia being a head coach now for the first time, first regular season game. There'll be some pressure there. But hey, look, he's got Matthew Stafford. He's got an offense that has been one of the top offenses in the league. Their thing has been defense, and we'll see if Patricia can bring some of those strategies that he had up in New England over to Detroit. I think the Lions will play well. I think they'll play well enough to beat this Jet team that just is too raw right now at this point. So I'm going to say the Lions take care of business. Sorry, Jet fans, 23-10. And our last pick here, folks, it's the Raiders and the Los Angeles Rams. Kind of like a mini Gruden Bowl in a lot of ways, because Sean McVay grew up on Gruden's staff when he was in Tampa Bay, so he got molded by the master in a lot of ways. And when you hear Sean McVay speak, it sounds a lot like John Gruden, which is actually kind of ironic. Now, both of these teams, though, coming into the season are really going in opposite directions. At least it feels that way on paper. The Rams right now look like the best team on paper right now. Jared Goff is coming off of an MVP caliber year last year. Todd Gurley is one of the best backs in the NFL. You have a defense led by Aaron Donald, who just got paid big-time money by the Rams, and he's, of course, one of the best defensive linemen in the National Football League. You put him right there with Robert Quinn and Connor Barwin. That's a lethal defense to deal with. You have a receiving core, Brandon Cooks and Sammy Watkins. I mean, it's a lot to deal with the Rams. They are a extremely talented team. And then, of course, they go out there and bring in Marcus Peters and they keep Talib as well to help their secondary. So they are going to be a handful in this game for the Raiders. They're going to be a handful for everybody in the NFL this year. For the Raiders, it's bizarre times right now. They traded Khalil Mack, obviously, to the Chicago Bears. Huge contract standoff. The Raiders didn't want to pay him a max contract over $20 million when they are already paying Derek Carr about $23-24 million per year as well. So you don't want to wrap up nearly $50 million into two players. I can understand that from the economic issue. Raiders get a couple of draft picks back. So what the message they are sending to their fans is that they're just not ready yet. Then there's a story that comes out just the other day about the city of Oakland maybe trying to push the Raiders out of town sooner via a lawsuit, as the Raiders, of course, making their way to Las Vegas in a couple of years. For all we know, that move may end up happening sooner, depending on how this lawsuit goes. So very weird times right now for the Raiders. The Raiders added a lot of older players to their team in the offseason. Of course, one of the big names that stands out, of course, is Jordy Nelson, the former receiver for the Green Bay Packers, now there for Oakland. But I do worry about the Raiders a little bit. I think this is a team that, when John Gruden returned, I think a lot of people thought that they could be getting on their way to getting back into the postseason. Now I think a lot of people just aren't sure what's happening right now. And I think a lot of people, it's really wait and see with the Oakland Raiders and where this team is going to go. Because, again, they're the oldest team on paper in the league. All of a sudden, they've made a lot of crazy moves and had to go up against the Rams, who are just loaded. So this is a tough spot for John Gruden to be in his first game back. It will be the pupil mastering the teacher in this one, and I will take the Rams to take care of the Raiders late Monday night, 34-21 out there in Oakland. So those are my picks for my 6 games. Now, very quickly, as I said, I did pick all the games, and I'm going to pull that graphic up right now, and there it is, folks. All the remaining 9 games that I did not analyze. As you can see, I'll just go over this really quickly. I'm taking the Colts to take care of the Bengals 24-21. I think Andrew Luck will find a way late to get that team rallied in his first game back, and the Colts will take care of business week 1. The Bills and the Ravens. I mean, my goodness. The Bills are just awful. They got so many problems. It's ridiculous. The Ravens will take care of business 23-3. Titans-Dolphins, not a great game on paper, not a game that's going to make a lot of people want to turn on the TV and watch, but I think that Marcus Mariota and company can make a play late, maybe get a late touchdown. It'll be a low-scoring game, 22-17, Tennessee on the road over Miami. This game could also be considered a game of the week. That's Kansas City, I did it. Second straight year, I did it. I almost did San Diego. Kansas City and Los Angeles, the Chargers. A lot of people love the Chargers this year, and I get it. They had a great finish to the year last year, but they've always been such an inconsistent team. They're always like a team that seems to get off to a very slow start and then catch on late. It seems like all the time. I know Kansas City's got the young quarterback there in Mahomes, who a lot of people like, who is mistake prone at the same time, but has the ability to throw the ball all over the ballpark. I could see that being a crazy game, and I will take Kansas City in a mini upset in a lot of ways over the Los Angeles Chargers, 30-28. Seahawks, in a battle of two teams that used to be good, I will take the Seahawks 29-24 over the Broncos. Packers all over the Khalil Mack-led Bears, 34-13. Even with Mack there, it's still the same old stuff. Packers take care of the Bears. Cowboys going into Carolina, I just don't like that matchup at all for Dallas. I really don't. I think Carolina, going into that game, home opener, they want to get off on the right foot. And a lot of things didn't go right for the Carolina Panthers this year. I think Carolina takes care of the Cowboys 26-16. Saints, boy, a lot of people like the Saints going into this year. A lot of people picking the Saints to go to the Super Bowl. Good start for them as they get the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers, of course, have their own problems. Jameis Winston suspended for the first 3 games, so that's Ryan Fitzpatrick playing in that game for Tampa Bay. Saints take care of business 38-17. And the Redskins take care of the Cardinals 23-7. Alex Smith in his first game in Washington against, Sam Bradford. Ooh, wow, that's fun. Okay, so those are my picks for week number 1, folks, here in the 2018 NFL season. We'll see how it works out. And again, remember, folks can follow us here on the social media at OpenMicNJ on Twitter, Facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, and of course, like and subscribe right here to Sports Talk Nation. We'll talk to you next time.